Books, Bücher, Libros. I don't know the word for book in any other languages. Book. Alex, you've already helped us so much. We've gotten rid of all of our physical possessions. You've opened our minds to the world of minimalism. We're so happy, but books don't count, right? We can keep the books, right? Well, firstly, yeah, of course. You can do whatever you like. I'm not the boss of you. Secondly, no, you can't keep the books. I am, of course, joking. You don't have to get rid of everything to be a minimalist. You can be a minimalist in 99 aspects of your life, and in that one other aspect, you have a collection of something. You'll probably appreciate the one or two things that you have a collection of a whole lot more if you're not surrounded by a bunch of other collections of random crap that you don't really like. Now, I'm not saying go and cover every surface in your house with porcelain cats. No, no, no. There's a difference between obsessively collecting something because it's become an addiction and this actually brings me joy to look at it every day. That's up to you to figure out. As you may have noticed, I have some books right here. It doesn't make me feel cluttered or stressed out to have them. I enjoy having them, as long as I don't have too many books and the books that I don't care about, you know? Plus, reading's like good for your brain, right? I decided to talk about books today because during this COVID lockdown, I've become reacquainted with reading and I'm really enjoying it. I wouldn't say I've been reading anything particularly challenging though. And that's because as I've moved back in with my parents for, well, what was going to be 3 weeks and is now 6 months of COVID lockdown, I've been going through books that I really enjoyed as a child and teenager that I still have at my parents' place. So picking them up has re-sparked my interest in the series, and there's actually a few of them that have released some additional books since I've read them as a kid, and I've bought quite a few books in the last 6 months, if I'm honest. More books than what you would think a minimalist would buy. So being a minimalist and a book lover, there are a couple of options, and I'm going to walk you through them. You may think the choice is obvious. I'm not going to go physical if I'm a minimalist, I'm going to go all digital. But there are pros and cons to both. But first, we're going to take a look at some of the options, different ways that you can actually get the book, or ebook, in order to read the book. Starting with physical. 1. If you're looking for a book that hasn't just been released, then your first point of call could be an op shop, or thrift store, charity store, I don't know what they call them overseas. Particularly if it's a very popular, well-established series. I always see Lord of the Rings in op shops, for example. It's also great if you're not looking for anything in particular, you just need a new book to read. You get it for a fraction of the price, the money usually goes toward charity, and you're not murdering any trees to make it. Well, no additional trees. Alternatively, you could use a library. Crazy, right? Or you could use one of those community libraries, like where you go and you take a book and you leave a book. They're pretty cool. You could borrow one off a friend or family member, but respect other people's books and their decisions about whether they want to loan you something or not. Because some people like their books to be kept in very good condition, and some people just throw a paperback in a bag and hope for the best. If these 3 things fail, then yeah, sure, maybe go out and buy a new book, particularly if you think that you're really going to enjoy it or you're going to read it multiple times, or if like you're going to buy it and then your brother's going to read it and then your sister's going to read it and then your best friend's going to read it and it gets lots of life, you know? General tip, don't just get a book for the sake of it sitting on the shelf and looking good. There's no point. Even if you find a book that's cheap and you think like, that's a steal, don't just grab it because you think, well, I may as well put it on the shelf. Maybe one day I'll read it, maybe, but you don't really have any intention of reading it because you may as well leave it there for somebody else who's actually going to read it to get that good deal. If you find you're buying books faster than you're reading them, then just slow it down a little bit. Be like, I'm not going to buy any new books until I finish the books I've got. Or I won't bring a new book into my life before I donate one of my old ones. Something like that. The alternative, of course, is digital. So you can go audiobook or you can go ebook. This is a tablet, these are headphones. If you want to go ebooks, then you can use something specifically designed for ebooks, such as a Kindle, or you can just use the Books app on your smartphone or tablet. So for audiobooks, you can do essentially the same thing. You can just buy them as you go using an app on your smartphone/tablet, or you can use a little something called Audible. I'm sure you've heard about Audible. It seems like every other YouTuber had a paid partnership with Audible for a while. I don't. I totally would. In fact, if I do in the future, I'll put a link down below so you can use that link and then you get a trial and I get money, something like that. But at this point in time, I'm just promoting them because I really like them. It's not like the streaming services where you just pay a certain amount a month and you get full access to anything on the site. Instead, you have 1 credit a month that you can use to get whatever book you like from the site, and then you can keep that forever, even if you terminate your membership. You also get your first month for free, so you can sign up for a free trial, and if you're not into it, you can just cancel it, and you get to keep that first book. So you can just take that Stephen Fry Harry Potter and run off into the sunset with it, with no repercussions at all. Honestly, when I got it, I thought, I'm gonna use this for like 3 or 4 months. That was 4 years ago. I love it because I am a slow reader. I walk and I run a lot and I listen to audiobooks while I walk and run. Cool, great info, but how do I know which one to pick? Let's look at some pros and cons. Price. I will try and go digital unless the physical is cheaper. And unfortunately, a lot of the time the physical is cheaper. Which is weird, right? If you went to school in Australia in the 90s, there is a very good chance you know what Del Toro Quest is. One of my friends got Audible when I recommended it, and she listened to all the Del Toro Quest books, and she was messaging me about it, like, do you remember Del Toro Quest? Oh, this happened, it's so great. And then I said, you know, I think there's actually some other books in the series. I've never read them. So we both decided that a fun isolation corona activity would be reading this book together for the first time. Well, not together because we're isolated, but at the same time. So I looked into getting the eBooks first, and the only way to do that was to buy the 3 of them separately, and they all cost $11. So it would be $33 all up, or I could get the physical edition with all 3 of them in one volume, $25 on Amazon and Book Depository. So I saved money and I got the physical edition. I also checked all the op shops for it, but none of them had anything, so... But I would always check digital first because it's not always more expensive. Sometimes, particularly if the book's been out for a long time, it can be really cheap. If you look at these Cassandra Clare books, for example, I know that they're aimed at teenagers, but this one, for example, Lady Midnight, I had the following 2 books in the series in physical because I found them for $4 or something at Big W, but this one I didn't have, it was $1. This one, for example, has been out for about a year and it's only $5. This one came out maybe a week ago, and it's about $3 less than what you pay for it in Big W or Kmart. So again, pretty good. A positive about physical, here's one I prepared earlier, is that you can always re-gift it, resell it, or donate it. If you go digital, then you can't resell it, and it's a lot more difficult to share unless you want to loan someone your entire iPad, for example. Some other quick things to consider. This came from trees. Trees have been cut down in order to make the paper that these books are made of, and there's also all the energy it takes to power the machines to make the books. But of course this you have to charge to use, so that electricity has to come from somewhere, not to mention all the parts that go into the actual tablet. There's all sorts of other ethics there, so Of course, from a minimalist perspective, when you buy a physical book, that's another item that you're bringing into your life. Whereas on the tablet, you could have 1 book or you could have 1,000 books and it's still just one item. The tablet. If you like to travel and you like to bring books with you when you travel, this is a lot more cumbersome than this to bring with you. Particularly if you're a fast reader and you're going to go through more than 1 book on your travels. This is 5 or 6 times the size of this, and you've only got 1 book. You could fit your entire library on a tablet. Not to mention, if you move house, you can either pack boxes and boxes and boxes of books, or you can just pick up your tablet and put it in a bag. I feel like I'm always discussing moving house, like it's something you do all the time. Most people don't, obviously, but I just hate moving so much that it keeps coming up. With the physical book, of course, you need to actually go and buy it or order it online and wait for it to be delivered. But with the digital, as soon as you buy it, you have it. It's instant. With digital books, there's also the option of previews, so you can just get a sample of the book and read the first chapter or so and see how you feel about it. Other great things about digital are that you can search, you can highlight things, you can do chapter select. It's great. I'm also aware that some people just don't like the experience of reading a book on a tablet or smartphone. But personally, I don't mind digital at all. I just make sure to put it on some sort of dark mode, or even this just sort of parchment color, I don't know what they call it. Just something that's not so harsh on the eyes, and I turn on infinite scroll, and I just go for it. So Alex, what's the answer? I do a mix of both. When I lived in the UK, I tried to do everything just 100% digital, though there was one time I found The Two Towers, Lord of the Rings, in a bookshop for £3, so I nabbed that and read the whole thing on the tube, and then left it in my workplace for somebody else to enjoy. Also, while I was in England, somebody recommended that I should read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, so I got the digital version, and then every day on the tube I would read it on my phone. I just make the text a little bit bigger so I wasn't straining my eyes, and it didn't matter if the tube was relatively empty and I got a seat, or if I was absolutely packed in with a bunch of other sweaty people trying to get to work with no air conditioning. I could just I could just put on scroll and just scroll away. But as I kept talking to my friends and my family about it, they kept asking me, oh, it sounds great. Do you have it? Can I borrow it? And I had to keep saying, no, I've only got the digital versions. I couldn't loan it to them because I didn't have a thing to loan, you know? To summarize, physical books are often cheaper, plus you have the benefit of being able to sell, loan, or donate them. But they take up physical space, it takes time to actually get them, and they're made of murdered trees. Digital books are sometimes cheaper, you get them the instant you tap a button, essentially, and they take up no physical space outside of the tablet itself. You can also do nifty things like highlight, search, look through chapters, and they're not made for murdering trees. Not directly anyway. However, you cannot resell them, donate them, or loan them out easily. Wow, Alex, thanks for all that information, but what is the answer, digital or physical? It varies depending on your personal situation, but I'd say try go as digital as possible, because the convenience of having an entire library on one device is pretty amazing. But if there's certain books and series that you just love, or you know that you want to be able to loan them out to friends and family to try and get them into it too, or if you just want to save a bit of money, then it might be worth going physical. I reckon from a minimalist perspective, if you're minimalist in a lot of other ways and you're not really sure what to do about books, digital, but it's up to you to decide. Haha! The most important thing is, don't buy books just for the sake of buying books, which, if you prefer, is the same as my general minimalist advice. Don't buy crap you don't need. Thank you for watching. If you did appreciate this video, if you got some useful tips out of it, if you found value from it, haha, click on my face, subscribe to my channel, click on another video to see if there's something else you like that I make, and I'll see you next time.